Subscribe, like, comment and share to support the channel. Thank you for the support.
After absorbing even more demonic energy, Minjun's status window appears to inform him that since his demonic energy has reached the threshold, his skill called corruption has been enhanced, and since then he has unlocked the skill called Nightwalker. Seeing this information on his window made Minjun happy as he exclaimed that he was lucky. His status window appears as well, showing that he still has the title of Lumi. Nuna is my favorite character cult founder. His strength, agility, and stamina had all reached 60 points while his demonic energy was at 15, and he now possesses two skills, Corruption and Nightwalker. As he continued to absorb the demonic energy, Minjun couldn't believe that he had gotten free demonic energy and a usable skill. Nightwalker was a skill that allowed him to call a familiar that he can summon in the form of a shadow. Since he had used it a lot in Isgard, he was quite familiar with that bastard, whose specialty is assassinating targets while hiding in the shadows. Although he needed to feed it demonic energy on a regular basis in order to maintain the summon, he knew that the bastard was definitely worth it. Minjun stood in front of the darkness as the demonic energy surrounded his body. He raised his arms into the air, and chanted the word that belongs to a very popular manhwa that has solo in its name. The word was arise. Arms began to form in the darkness and soon a figure appears with purple glowing eyes, but Minjun remained silent upon seeing the creature that had come out from the shadows as it appears to be very small. His face was covered with a dark look as he wonders what the hell this was, and whether it was part of the dimensional travel penalty or was it because his demonic energy stat was too low. In any case, Minjun could only think of it as being awful as he wonders where the hell he could use this tiny ass weakling that looks like it was going to wither away in the sunlight. But he soon comes to a realization, seeing its small size and its ability to hide in the shadows. The scene then changes back to the military camp where Minjun salutes the other members who he was sharing the bunk with. He reports to them that Private First Class Kim Minjun was returning from vacation. The men gathered around and soon asks Minjun if he was the hunter that managed to advance in the shortest time to date. Others question him if he had gotten the vacation from the division commander and that he even gave Minjun the badge himself. Minjun laughs along and tells them that it was all true, but his attention was soon drawn to something behind him. He continues to stare for a moment before handing over a bag. He tells his best buddy Dong Jin in the bunk that he had brought back a bottle of moisturizer for him. Dong Jin replied back that he didn't have to bring him anything, but his face was filled with joy as he pulls out the moisturizer, thanking Minjun for it. Guangshik enters the bunk as well, commenting that it wasn't like Minjun had been dispatched overseas but noted that their friendship was touching. He then asks Minjun if he had brought that he asked for, which was a Maxim magazine. Minjun tells him that he did and handed him 2 coffee sticks. The joke here is that the magazine and coffee stick brand names were both Maxim. The orange-haired senior pointed out to Minjun that he happened to see the list of candidates for advancement examinations while he was passing by the administration office and that Minjun's name was on it. The buddy beside him was alarmed to hear that as the application period for it had ended even before Minjun had been transferred here, but added on that it hadn't even been a year since Minjun's enlistment, which meant that he didn't qualify. But the orange-haired senior questions Minjun on whether he had the division commander do it for him as the timing didn't fit no matter how they looked at it. The other lads in the bunk began to discuss amongst themselves that their youngest was going to take on the advancement exam. But as they talked amongst themselves, Minjun reveals to them that the training commander had given him a special offer when he went to visit him in his office that time. As he continued to explain the reasoning, the lads all remained silent and listened closely to what Minjun was telling them. As soon as he ended his explanation, the orange-haired senior was the first to spoke out. He was shocked to hear that Minjun had came here because he wanted to start taking the advancement exams a year earlier and that he was a crazy bastard for doing so. Even the other senior realized that since Minjun was already a private first class, it meant that he was taking the advancement exam to become a corporal. All of them figured that if Minjun really passes the exam then he would actually be a crazy bastard. They all laughed with one another while Guangshik sat by himself, stirring and preparing the cup of coffee that Minjun had given him from before. The senior then informs Minjun that there were people taking the advancement exams this Saturday and will be going through an orientation, and that there will be a specialty weapons training tomorrow, so Minjun was going to suffer. The orange-haired senior decided that it was time for him to leave and bided the kids farewell and to have fun. The seniors continued to talk between themselves, where they wondered about each other on whether they were going to take the advancement exam soon. But Minjun was curious about the specialty weapons training that they had mentioned as he wonders if there was something other than firearms. The scene then changes to another commander calling for everyone's attention as he points to a whiteboard. He informs them that they will be going through a quick orientation in regard to the advancement examinations tomorrow, and he warns those that have already taken the exam to not get sidetracked just because they know the details and to concentrate for the sake of the first-timers. Minjun began to pay attention with a curious look on his face as the instructor briefed them while Guangshik had already fallen asleep. The Hunter Corps advancement examinations are conducted through written and practical exams. The written part seems to be at a basic level which was easier than that of a driving test. As Minjun walked along the hallways, he guessed that the practical exam is what was really important, and that they were going to look at their stat test, specialty weapons proficiency and ability to handle monsters. Passing was a given to Minjun, but he wonders what the perks would be if he receives the perfect score. He then decides that he should take a more serious approach. Various types of melee weapons were placed on top of a table. An instructor shouts to the soldiers gathered in front of him that they will commence with the specialty weapons training. He issues a command, telling the privates and privates first class to not pick any weapons other than swords. The soldiers shouted, "Yes, sir," in unison upon hearing the command. The instructor then tells the corporals to take their personal weapons and to go train all the way over there, but warns them that they are dead if he catches them slacking off. He then informs the remaining soldiers that he is going to teach them the basic swordsmanship from the Hunter Corps Combat Manual, but tells them to keep in mind that following the guidelines blindly will not do them any good. He continues to tell them that they will have to use the Hunter Corps swordsmanship as a foundation and to adapt it to their own styles. To which the soldiers replied, "Yes, sir." He tells them that since the basics were important, then they needed to follow along with him, to concentrate and make sure that they didn't look somewhere else. The instructor then went out to show off the Hunter Corps swordsmanship style. Holding a sword in one hand, Minjun sees the demonstration and smiles as he understood why this was called a specialty weapons training. Recalling the moment he had to fight the steroid monster, he figured that it was foolish to fight monsters with only rifles. The other soldiers began to practice on their own after seeing the swordsmanship demonstration but were struggling with it. Our boy on the other hand was graceful with it, as he practiced. Minjun thought about how the Isgardian swordsmanship was much better before leaping into the air like a swan and catching the shocked look of his fellow men. He lands on the ground and thought that the swordsmanship power was all dependent on how he apples it. The instructor then orders everyone to stop what they were doing and tells Minjun to come up to the podium. Minjun responds back with his rank and name. "Private First Class Kim Minjun, sir." "Yes, sir," he shouted as the others looked at him. As he made his way to the podium, he wondered what it was this time. The instructor informed the others that, based on the observations that he had made, he noticed that their movements were still very awkward and did not flow well, so he shouted at them to take a cue from Private First Class Kim Minjun. Hearing that command startles Minjun, but he proceeds to do what the instructor said anyways. He performs the movements behind the swordsmanship as the instructor gave out the instructions once again. The other soldiers paid more attention and started to sweat profusely as they watched closely to Minjun's demonstration. The demo finally ends and Minjun was found sitting in the shade, sweating heavily and complaining that he wasn't even the training officer on such a hot day. The instructor soon walks by him and calls out to Minjun, telling him that he had done a good joke and did it perfectly well. He hands something over to him and tells him to eat it when he was alone. Minjun was holding onto the chocolate pie and wonders if the instructor carries this kind of stuff around him all the time, but just as he was about to eat it, another soldier appears and calls out to him. It appears to be Dong Jin. He tells Minjun that his swordsmanship demonstration was really great and wonders shyly if it was okay with him to take a look at his form during their break. Minjun immediately stood up with shocked after hearing Dongjin's request to him. But Dongjin knew that even though this was Minjun's first time training, he reveals to him that the sword was his specialty weapon but still found it hard to fight monsters with it, which made him ask Minjun if he didn't mind taking a quick look if he could. Minjun stares at him silent with a smile on his face before telling Dongjin that he was going to take as much looks as he needed. Dongjin then began to show off his swordsmanship in front of Minjun, who watched from the back. He could tell that he had been training earnestly from how he moves. As he ate the snack that he was given by the instructor, Minjun saw Dongjin's work as the standard of the Hunter Corps swordsmanship but figured that the problem wasn't in his movements. What Private First Class Dongjin lacked was confidence, and that just so happens to be in Minjun's area of expertise, as a flashback is seen from when he was training other dark mages back in Isgard, but he knew that right now wasn't the time, but when it came, Minjun was sure that he would make Dongjin into a top-tier hunter. Saturday soon arrives, as it was the day of the advancement examination. The soldiers on base were casually going on about their day. watching TV and sports, until a broadcast message was sent out. It informs them that the message was from the administrative office, informing the hunters who are scheduled to take the advancement exams to proceed to the military training ground immediately. The broadcast message started to repeat itself as the soldiers all heard it. Minjun immediately stood up while already wearing his uniform. His eyes were filled with confidence as he knew that it was time for him to become a corporal. Some time had passed as the soldiers taking the exam had gathered together. The instructor questions if everyone has gathered and introduces himself as a 2nd Lieutenant Kim Chol-min from the 2nd Battalion 2nd Company's 2nd Platoon Commander who will be their guide for today. He shouts at them on whether they were listening to him well, as he would like for everyone to report the number of personnel from each company first. The soldiers then began to board a bus while Chol-min tells them to proceed quickly in an orderly fashion. He reminds everyone in the bus that the advancement exams will be held at the 105th Division, so they will now depart to Gapyeong where they were located. The bus began its journey as Chol-min tells them that they could look at the practice questions while they were traveling. Some of the faces of the soldiers were nervous while Minjun was calm, but he soon looks up in front of him as the others discuss some rumors. One of them mentions to the other that the 4th Battalion was coming to the advancement exams today. Hearing that info made the other soldier wonder if they were going to see girls today. The soldier began to blush heavily as he tells his friend that he was going to show off his specialty weapons proficiency that he had proacted for a year in front of the girls. His friend predicts that the girls might ask him for his number, which causes the both of them to laugh. Minjun hears this and couldn't help but smile. He looks out the window and thought that it was right for them to try their best. We soon arrive at Gyeonggi-do, Gapyeong, the 105th Division divisional base. A letter was attached on the door where it was written that this was the 4th Hunter Corps Advancement Examination and that this was written Examination Room 7. The test had ended as the instructor had gathered all of their papers. His face was filled with anger as he announced to everyone that aside from Cho Jung-wook from the 2nd Battalion of the 104th Division, everyone has passed. The others tried their best to hide their laughter as the instructor informs them that all hunters except for Cho Jung-wook should proceed to the practical examination room immediately. As they headed to the practical examination room, his friend was called Jung-wook an idiot for failing the Hunter Corps written exam that was easier than a test for a driver's license. Jung-wook apologized loudly to his friend while the others continued to laugh. Minjun continued to make his way to the exam as well, but a figure stood behind to watch him. It was the female Solidar's son who had watched him during his enrollment. As they gathered for the practical exam, another commander informs them of the hard work that they had done to get here today, including all of the examiners. The 105th Division welcomes them. The commander introduces himself as Lieutenant Colonel Lee Chol-ju, who was in charge of overseeing this advancement exam. He informs the candidates that their objective was not just to find people worthy of a promotion, but to gather 3 divisions with friendly competition and to be fair. But everyone including Minjun wasn't paying attention as they wondered why they couldn't just take the exams already. Chol-ju finally reaches the end of his speech, telling them that in this year's advancement exam, there were members attending based on a special exception. He tells them that they were 104th Division's Private First Class Kim Minjun and Private Sun Yun-so. The other soldiers took a look at her while Minjun was surprised to learn that there was another person besides Hai. Chol-jin continues to tell them that although they may be hunters who enlisted less than a year ago, but were from the 104th Division, which everyone knew, he then warns them to make sure to not create any misunderstandings. A soldier spoke out that it was true that they get special exceptions if they apply to the front lines with exceptional grades. Another soldier had heard that there were kids who were given the proposals in his enlistment year, but he had heard that they all rejected the offer. His face was glum over hearing it was the 104th Division, while another was alarmed to hear that one of them was already a private first class. They began to look around one another to spot Kim Minjun. Yun-so took a look as well and knew exactly where our boy was standing. She sees the rank on his rank but was caught off guard when Minjun made eye contact with her. She immediately turns her head around while blushing hard, while our boy simply held the same facial expression. Chol-jin then informs everyone to do their best, which was the end of what he wanted to say. Another commander took the mic to introduce himself as Captain Jung Sang-chul. He then informs them that they were going to commence with the stat test for their strength, agility, and stamina. He tells them that the first test was strength, which was quite simple. All they needed to do was just push back the examiner in front of them. Hearing the way the strength test was being conducted made Minjun recall the red crystal test he took, which made him wonder why all the exams were like this. Sang-chul then informs them that they have 1 minute and that they will be evaluated on a 100-point scale, and the highest score will be given for a 10-meter movement. Those who are called out commence with the test. He then calls out for Private Kim Jin-hyuk of the 103rd Division to come forward. He comes forward with a determined look on his face as he takes off his jacket. He slams heavily onto the instructor's shoulder with all his might. Even his face started to turn red all of a sudden, but the instructor simply slams him backwards with just his shoulder. Chol Jin informs him that he had 0 points and had been disqualified. He informs the others that if they score less than 40 on this test, then they will be automatically disqualified from the advancement exam. Hearing the news made some of the soldiers even more nervous. One by one they went to push the instructor, but none of they had succeeded and were disqualified. Sang Chol continued to write down the results of the exam with an upset look on his face. It was time for Yunso's turn as she returns with a tired look on her face, but Sang Chol announces to everyone that she had scored 50 points and had passed. The others were alarmed to hear this as it was revealed that she had managed to push back the instructor until the 5-meter mark. The other soldiers couldn't believe that hunter was Yunso and noted how pretty she was. One of them questions if she was the one whose father was the division commander. They began to wonder if strength was in her genes, while others were terrified by the sharp look in her eyes, thinking that they would die if they got close to her. Yunso took a look at her side, and it was revealed that Minjun was standing there with a calm look on his face. He sees her and recognizes Yunso as the other person who had gotten the special exception like him. Sang Chol soon calls out for Kim Minjun of the 104th Division to come forward. Minjun announces his rank and name and informs the commander that he is coming forward. He makes his way towards the instructor while, deep in his thoughts, he wonders if he shouldn't do what he did with the Redstone exam this time around. But he smiles as he figures that if he manages to push back the instructor past the 10-meter mark, then he might be able to get bonus points. With a few quick steps, Minjun pushes the instructor with both of his arms. Instead of stepping back, the instructor was sent flying backwards through the air. The other candidates were shocked to see what was happening as a loud scrapping sound was heard in the exam room. The instructor himself had to kneel and stomped his feet heavily onto the ground in order to stop. There were marks etched onto the ground as the instructor stopped himself. The instructor appeared to be angry by Minjun's actions as veins started to appear on his head, while Sang Chol was alarmed to see this sight. He then announces to everyone that Private First Class Kim Minjun had received 100 points. Even Yunso was alarmed to hear his result. As he made his way back to the ground, Minjun couldn't believe that there weren't any bonus points after all.
Thanks for watching the latest part from the voice of Manhwa. Subscribe for more content and don't forget to comment below what you want to see in the future. Like and share for more.